The Buffalo Bills have fired head coach Sean McDermott after 9 seasons and are now on the search for their next leader who will answer to general manager Brandon Beane, who's been promoted to president of football operations. Beane will lead the search, so on today's show, I'm going to tell you my top candidates for the Buffalo Bills head coaching position for 2026 and beyond. With that being said, the search is on, and we're going to have you guys covered like nobody else on YouTube here at the Bills Breakdown. Make sure you are subscribed for updates on the Bills head coaching search. We just passed 13,000 subs here on the channel. Your one-stop shop for Bills news and rumors this offseason is right here at the Bills Breakdown. So go down below, hit that subscribe button, and turn your notifications on so you know exactly when there's updates around this Bills head coaching search. All right, man. Number one on Sean McDermott replacements list. Not number one as in we should hire him number one, but the first one we're talking about today is a familiar name. Brian Daboll, the former head coach of the New York Giants and also the former offensive coordinator of your Buffalo Bills. Somebody who many believe is a big-time mentor to Josh Allen. Somebody instrumental into him being the quarterback and becoming the quarterback that he has become. Daboll ends up getting fired by the Giants after going 20-40-1. It was not a great stretch there for Brian Daboll's first head coaching opportunity in this league, but he was handed a pretty rough, draw there with the New York Giants, having to win a playoff game with Daniel Jones. That's an accomplishment in itself. And then, the general manager ends up extending him for $100 million, and then he's stuck with Daniel Jones over the following 2 seasons. Then ends up taking his guy in Jackson Dart and shows some promise, but the Giants were losing games and they didn't have really more time to wait this Daboll process out, so they went out and fired him. Some people could call him a scapegoat, but Brian Daboll now in the in the coaching pool is a potential head coach or offensive coordinator name out there. He was rumored to be interested in the Penn State job before that was they hired Matt Campbell there from Iowa State. Now, the reason we bring up Brian Daboll first on today's show is that Diana Rossini came out with this tweet pretty close to Sean McDermott's announcement of being fired, talking to NFL executives around the league about Buffalo's next head coaching options. The name that keeps coming up is a familiar one, Brian Daboll, a Buffalo native and someone who Josh Allen loves. If the Bills are going to be catering to Josh Allen here and with the situation they're in right now, not able to interview coaches who are currently coordinating in the playoffs still, then if they have something in mind here in terms of where they want to go with their head coach, Brian Daboll could be one of those guys that they have their sights set on. But if they don't go with Daboll, then maybe they end up promoting Joe Brady. And I know, these two names off the rip, maybe not the most inspiring or celebration-inducing names out there. We've had our criticisms of Joe Brady in the past this season with the Buffalo Bills, but if they want to keep things in-house, if this is somebody that is going to answer to Brandon Beane now, because that's going to be the case. Brandon Beane being promoted to president of football operations. Terry Pegula said that he's overseeing the coaching staff. The coaching staff answers to him now. Then maybe the Joe Brady would be a guy that they go after here. The Bills offensive coordinator since 2024, and he was the interim OC in 2023 after they fired Ken Dorsey. And he was a former Panthers offense coordinator, the LSU pass game coordinator with Joe Burrow back in 2019. 36 years old. Josh Allen likes him, and he said that he has been awesome for my career. So could they go with a guy like Joe Brady here, who we've had issues with this season in terms of situational play calling and aggressiveness and what have you? I don't know. But the Bills offense certainly looked better after the firing of Ken Dorsey and with Joe Brady running the show. This could be something that Brandon Beane sees as a move to keep power. Because I really believe that Sean McDermott losing his head coaching job here was due to a power struggle between him and Brandon Beane, the general manager. Both of them operating at the same level of power. If not, you could argue Sean McDermott had a little bit more power and voice than Brandon Beane here. So with that being the case, they move on from McDermott. If Beane wants somebody who he thinks he can control, I think Joe Brady would be a name that's at the top of that list. But at the top of my list personally to go out there and hire for the Bills head coaching job, look no further than Klint Kubiak, who is taking that Seattle Seahawks offense led by Sam Darnold on to the next level. He is in the NFC Championship at this point. He has had the offense put up 41 points on the San Francisco 49ers in the divisional round. And he's the hottest offensive head coaching name in this cycle. If the Bills want to take a massive swing and go and shoot for the stars on this offensive head coach, then look past Brian Daboll. Look past Joe Brady. Be done with the retreads and go after Klint Kubiak, the hottest offensive name in the books right now, the current offensive coordinator for the Seattle Seahawks. He was the 2021 Vikings offensive coordinator. He's the 2024 Saints offensive coordinator. So he's been around the block as an OC, finally calling plays over the last few seasons in New Orleans and in Seattle. He seems ready to take on this job. He's a part of a big-time football family in the Kubiaks. He was the son of former Super Bowl winning head coach Gary Kubiak, and that was also a move that the Broncos had to make to get over the hump with Peyton Manning. They had to fire John Fox and bring in Gary Kubiak to get over the hump here. Could it be the same thing hiring Klint? He's 38 years old. He's got Shanahan ties, and if you bring him in here as a 38-year-old with Josh Allen at quarterback, this could be your Bills head coach for the next decade plus up in Buffalo. Another hot name that is certain to be in Bills head coaching conversations is Davis Webb, who's the pass game coordinator and quarterbacks coach over with the Denver Broncos, the guys who you just beat. But what's interesting about these two names here is, like I said, the Bills cannot interview either one of them until they are eliminated from the postseason. So if somehow, some way, Jarrett Stidham goes out there and wins a playoff game here in the AFC Championship against Drake May and the Patriots, I would probably have to think about hiring Davis Webb if he goes out there and does that. You wouldn't be able to talk to him until after the Super Bowl. Same goes with Klint Kubiak. If he wins the NFC Championship against the Los Angeles Rams, you can't talk to him until after the Super Bowl. So I don't know what the situation is here with the Bills. Do they have something in mind already with one of these two guys, or are they willing to wait on one of these two young Thundercats that are running around calling some of the league's best offenses? If Davis Webb is that name, it would be a reunion of sorts to Buffalo. He was the Bills' backup quarterback for Josh Allen a few years ago. He's only a year older than Josh, though, so that would certainly create an interesting dynamic there. He had come out and said in a quote, Peter Schrager brought it up, saying that Davis Webb said that Buffalo is the favorite place that he's ever played, and his best friend is the starting quarterback over there. So if the Bills want to do something like that, totally appease Josh, maybe since he doesn't call plays specifically in Denver, they bring Brian Daboll in to be the CEO head coach, which didn't really work out all that well in New York, but maybe they do that, bring in Davis Webb for the OC, and really just full-on cater to Josh Allen here moving forward. With that being said, what do you guys think? Do you agree with the Sean McDermott firing by the Buffalo Bills? We'll get into four short candidates here at the back half of today's show, and we'll get into some other names to watch before we wrap up. But let me know in the comment section first. Do you agree with the Bills firing McDermott? Why for yes and for no? Comment down below your thoughts. As we got to talk about our sponsor here on the program next, and that is PrizePicks. The big game is almost here, and there's no better way to cash in during America's biggest sporting event than with PrizePicks, where it always feels good to be right. And since the big game is right around the corner, that also means it's your last chance to get into the football action before next season. So close the season out right with PrizePicks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. It's the best daily fantasy sports app in the game, where all you guys got to do is pick 2 to 6 players and just pick more or less on their projected stats. You can win up to 2,000 times your money in one single PrizePicks lineup, and they're the best because they offer the best features, like their new feature, early payouts. So if your player or your lineup gets off to a hot start, you'll now have the option to cash out those winnings before the game even finishes. You can also find your community on PrizePicks with the new social feeds feature, where you share PrizePicks with your friends and copy lineups from winners with a single click. You can copy lineups you like or use them as inspiration for your own picks. You can even follow PrizePicks partners like us and tailor fade our picks with just one click. Like our picks for the national championship coming up on Monday night. Carson Beck, more than 29.5 pass attempts. Malachi Toney, the freshman, more than 5.5 receptions. And then Omar Cooper, big wide receiver for the Indiana Hoosiers, more than half a rushing or receiving touchdown. You could tail my picks or fade them. Just do it at PrizePicks. Download the app today and use the code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. It's good to be right. Alrighty here, man. Mike McCarthy. That's a name that we didn't necessarily think that would be on the Bills' radar, but if the Bills want to go, and I'll tell you right now, the first 4 names that we discussed on today's show are probably the most likely names that are to be brought into this Bills building. Here are some more, I would say, out there names, but I still think are fairly realistic. If the Bills want to go with a Super Bowl winning head coach, they're going to have to go with Mike McCarthy unless they want to go out there and make a trade for Mike Tomlin, which we'll talk about later. But McCarthy, I think he gets a bad rap, to be quite honest with you guys. I wouldn't be the most disappointed in this hire If you look at John Harbaugh's stats side by side with Mike McCarthy, they're nearly identical in terms of playoff win percentage, regular season win percentage, Super Bowl champ. I mean, Mike McCarthy is a good head coach, and I think he maybe got a raw deal in Dallas as well. I mean, you know the dynamics over there with Jerry Jones running the show. He's 174, 112, and 2 as an NFL head coach. That's pretty damn good. He's an offensive mind with a lot of experience. He's worked with Aaron Rodgers. He's worked with Dak Prescott, some of the best quarterbacks in football. Why wouldn't he be able to work with a big quarterback that can make every throw on the football field, just like Josh Allen? Chris Shula is another name that we'll talk about on the show here. Hot shot defensive coordinator over with the Rams, but like Denver and Seattle, the Bills cannot talk to Chris Shula until the playoffs are concluded. So with him being a hot name, he really kind of put his chips into the center of the table on Sunday night against the Chicago Bears. That may have gotten him a head coaching job here. He's also a hot name in the Pittsburgh Steelers coaching vacancy, which we know is one of the most sought-after jobs this cycle. Could the Bills potentially sway him to come be the Buffalo head coach? I think that a coordinator, especially in the defensive end that hasn't been a head coach, would just be the Bills repeating the same Sean McDermott deal over again. McDermott was the DC in Carolina for that Super Bowl, and they bring him into the fold here after having no head coaching experience before in the NFL, and now we're at the spot where we are, where 9 years or 8 years of Josh Allen's career have been wasted. Chris Shula, I like him a lot. I just think he'd be probably better suited to go do another job somewhere else than what the Bills currently need at this point. Mike McDaniel. I'm not so sure if I buy into him being able to lead the locker room for the Buffalo Bills, but in terms of offensive minds out there, he's got to be in the top 3 of names that are available. In terms of how he did as the Dolphins head coach, is where he's coming from here, just fired by Miami recently. He was 9-8 in his first season, 11-6 in his second season, made the playoffs in each of those 2 years, and then 8-9 and 7-10, with Tua being straight garbage. And Tua being hurt left and right, concussion prone, injury prone. You got guys like Quinn Ewers playing quarterback out there. Things weren't good down in Miami. And you could argue that roster was put in a rough spot. Tyreek Hill's been injured. He's also commanded so much money to where they can't commit stuff elsewhere. There's holes on that defense in Miami as well. So not all of this can be blamed on Mike McDaniel. I mean, shout out to him for making Tua look like a competent quarterback for as long as he has, to be quite honest with you guys. So he calls really good offense, but can he command a locker room? Can he be a head coach that runs the whole show? I don't know if that's the move that Buffalo is wanting to make at this point. Now, a absolutely hot name that is under the radar would be a total shock stunner. Nate Scheelhaase over with the Los Angeles Rams. He's being looked at as the wonderkin option right now. He is 35 years old, no head coaching experience yet, but if there's a name that people trust out there right now, it's Sean McVay. And Nate Scheelhaase is kind of like his second in command of sorts, even over a guy, their offensive coordinator, like Mike LaFleur. The Scheelhaase stuff is very interesting, man. I want to get a little bit more information on him here before we wrap up my top candidates, because like he is one of these guys where he worked under Matt Campbell from 2018 to 2023 over at Iowa State, played quarterback at Illinois from 2011 to 2013, and he's been under Sean McVay for the last 2 seasons. It's an interesting look. It's an interesting idea to bring in a young guy like this who's never been head coach. It's a similar thing to Klint Kubiak, but Klint Kubiak has also been calling plays the last 2 seasons with 2 different teams, and he's made those offenses look pretty good either way. So Scheelhaase is a name to watch out for. I would be interested to see if they're going to wait on those guys like Kubiak and Davis Webb, that they wouldn't wait for Nate Scheelhaase either. What do you guys think? Pick your guy for me down in the comment section. Who do you want as the Bills' next head coach? Is it somebody we've named already? Is it somebody we haven't? Who do you guys got? Let me know what your thoughts are down in the comment section below. Now, some other quick names to watch here before we round out the program. Mike Tomlin, look, he's won a Super Bowl before. He's won a lot of football games. The playoff success hasn't been there over the last 10 years, but he's won the big one before. But he's also under contract with the Pittsburgh Steelers still for 2 more seasons. So you have to trade for him. It would be high priority draft picks because they're not going to let him walk for nothing. So I would be against doing that. This Bills roster has too many holes to be giving up draft picks to go out there and sign a head coach. By the way, is Mike Tomlin going to be answering to Brandon Beane? I don't think so. Michael LaFleur is a name out there, but he doesn't call plays, and it feels like Scheelhaase is the name that's just more sought after down in L.A., but he is a LaFleur, so it'd be interesting to see if he gets a look for the Bills head coaching job. Grant Udinski, Jags OC, also doesn't call the plays, but he's being a hot head coaching candidate name. The Browns are thinking about hiring him. Grant Udinski just sounds like a head coach is to be fired by the Browns after a year, but who knows if that's going to be the case. Jesse Minter, people are calling him the Sean McVay of defenses, the Ben Johnson of defenses this cycle. The Bills' defense played well enough this past week to win the football game, and it was the offense that didn't. Clearly, that needs to improve in some way, shape, or form if the Bills want to take the next step. So I don't know if they go with Minter there, and then for that same reason, I don't know if they go with Jeff Hafley, the defensive coordinator with the Green Bay Packers, who also just had 27 points put on him, 20-plus points put on him in the fourth quarter by the Chicago Bears. I'm not so sure that he is the name to go after here, but some 5 other names to watch after we gave you my top 8 head coaching candidates for your Buffalo Bills after Sean McDermott's firing. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. We'll be keeping you guys tapped in with all that you need to know about this Bills head coaching search. That doesn't really look like it's going to be wrapped up here very quickly, so subscribe to the channel, turn your notifications on, and as always, let's go Buffalo.